necessarily, or yes. Jonathan Manthorpe, our guest, he's an international affairs columnist, foreign correspondent, journalist extraordinaire. Take me back to Iran, the future, and I know you don't have a crystal ball.
No. Well, you know, there's been a huge amount of discussion recently, Fanny, about whether there would be a military attack by the US and Israel, or Israel and the US, or one or the other separately, to try to essentially remove the nuclear threat, right? Destroy the nuclear facilities and so on and so forth. US has always been very much opposed, or this administration has been in the US has been opposed to it. There have been elements in the US Congress that are very much in favor of it. I think Mitt Romney has said that if he was president, he would do it.
Go in.
Go in, yeah. The Israeli government has been far more pushy, far more. They see themselves right on the front line, of course. They have been sort of pushing for military action, and there's been, I think, a great deal of concern that the Israelis might make some sort of airstrike unilaterally. But the problem with that is you can never be sure of getting all the facilities, of wiping out all the nuclear facilities in Iran. And the best you could do would be to delay their nuclear program, not to destroy it. So I think that cooler heads in the last little while have won through a bit. And I think that the strategy now is to try to promote regime change within Iran, if you like, a Persian Spring. And so these sanctions are clearly aimed at that. These sanctions are clearly aimed at the public of Iran, 70 million people, saying this government is no good. You know, our economy is going down the tubes. This nuclear program is not worth the game. Let's get rid of these people. And I think that that is the aim of it.
If not a nuclear program for arms, a nuclear program for power, do they need it?
Not really. They're, you know, they've got one of the world's largest stocks of oil and gas, which is why there was always a great deal of suspicion about this program to begin with, that it wasn't purely for generating electricity, that it was aimed at producing weapons.
The assassinations, how preventable? How do you possibly protect someone from a guy on a bike slapping a bomb on your car?
Well, I guess what you can do is more or less what the Americans did in the Manhattan Project in the 1940s. You put them all in Huntsville and keep them all together. Or Los Alamos. And it may come to that. We may well see that the Iranians, putting all their nuclear scientists in protected villages. But I think, one of the aspects of these assassinations, targeted killings, murder, whatever you want to call them, is, I think, probably to destabilize the nuclear community itself. These guys will be looking at each other. They'll be looking over their shoulders all the time. These are scientists. These are not soldiers. These are guys who are going to work with their wives in the morning when motorcyclist comes up and pops a bomb on the car, or the first case, they parked a motorcycle with a bomb attached outside the house of one of the nuclear scientists. It went off as he left the house in the morning to get into his car and killed him. So these guys are going to be looking over their shoulders, and they're going to be wondering, do I really want this job?
Right. Well, and as you know so well, nuclear scientists aren't a dime a dozen, no, so certainly they can get work in other countries.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And we did have
other fields.
We did have a case of one Iranian nuclear scientist who defected to the States. Now, something strange happened, and he then one day popped up at the Pakistani embassy at the UN a year or so later saying he wanted to go home. What's happened to him since he got home, I don't know. But so there has been at least one documented defection. And I'm sure one of the objects of this program is to encourage others.
Leaving Iran, what's going on in Syria?
Well, death and destruction, basically.
Yes.
I mean, it's the visit by the so-called monitors from the Arab League has been an absolute total failure. It has, if anything, exacerbated the situation. Their presence has encouraged local people to increase their pressure on the government, increase the demonstrations. The Assad regime has, in response, grown even more violent. It it took its heavy artillery out of the tanks and things out of the cities and stopped firing heavy artillery into the cities while the monitors were there. But as soon as the backs were turned, they've carried on going in, arresting, killing detainees. Some terrible stories about the killing of children, the torture and murder of children to try and intimidate people. People keep on saying, well, we're close to civil war. Well, you know, where that line is, I don't know. I would say myself they're in civil war now. They've had about 40,000 now defections from the army. Now, you and I have talked before about this, and I think I remember saying to you some months ago that we might start seeing defections from the army, and then that would be the beginning of a serious civil war. We're seeing that now, a lot of soldiers defecting with their guns.
And anything to do with Al-Qaeda, Taliban? What's it all about, Alfie?
Well, of course, you know, we have this divide here between the Assad family and their supporters who are Alawite Shia Muslims. The bulk of the population are Sunni Muslims, so there's a very sharp religious divide there. And the entire hierarchy, the elite, are these Alawite Shia Muslims associated with the Assad family.
And Assad is married to a British woman.
Yes. Who makes the front pages because of her. She's rather delightful.
Beautiful and delightful, and they were comparing her to Queen Rania of Jordan.
Yeah, and she looks like, you know, a fawn who, you know, wouldn't hurt a blade of grass, and is married to this rather nasty ophthalmologist.
Yeah, apparently. Well, you just don't know what love does. Our defense minister, you know, Peter MacKay.
Yes.
No longer the eligible bachelor.
Well, yes.
Married a phenomenal woman. She's been here.
Well,
speaks 4 or 5 languages. She's a pilot.
Yeah. Well, I think he's probably maybe done better than he deserved.
You do. Well, we'll go into that another day.
Nice to see you.
Thank you, Jonathan Manthorpe from the Vancouver Sun. And coming up.